sometimes. We read from Chaitanya Charitamrita and then a little bit from Real too. Do you like? If you like. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there was a new introduction for one Sudhana. And he was
Sorry.
Two words.
yeah.
I don't remember which verse.
Yeah. I think you have this place anyway. Yeah, I think he's here.
Okay.
Just so you know, real life.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 10, which covers Mahaprabhu's return to Jagannath Puri after his South Indian sojourn. Text 150. Govindera sange kare prabhura sevana, Govindera bhagya simanayaya varnana. They all remained with Govinda to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore no one could estimate the good fortune of Govinda. Oh, this is, they're going to have the pastime of Ramananda Bharati in the deerskin, is that correct? Seems that way.
Sure. Maybe.
Yeah, it's going to.
Oh, I remember exactly where we ended. It was after, when Govinda comes to serve Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu has this conflict, to accept his guru's order for Govinda to serve him, or to not accept the service of his godbrother.
Right.
And that's exactly where we ended. That.
Oh, I see, yes.
Yeah.
And Mahaprabhu's decision, of course, is ultimately to agree with Govinda that the order of the Guru is... Because Govinda wants to serve Mahaprabhu. Yes.
The order of Guru must be followed.
Yes.
Not considered immediate.
Yes. Narottam Das Thakur says, Sri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati Satma, right?
Yeah.
Exclusive execution of the Gurudev's orders. Are dina mukunda data kahe kare prabhurastane Brahmananda Bharati Aila Tomara Darashane. The next day, Mukunda Datta informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Brahmananda Bharati has come to see you. So that little dialogue between Govinda and Mahaprabhu has been covered already yesterday, right? You covered that.
Yeah.
And now Brahmananda Bharati has arrived. He is one of the 10 sannyasis that were with Mahaprabhu in Puri. The Das, how are they known?
I don't remember. Yeah,
It's not Das Mula, is it?
No.
Because that's the tattva of Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Yeah.
But it could be something. It could be a synonym for root.
Yeah, no, mul means root.
Yeah, so I'm saying it could be another word, not mul, but some other root.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's some phrase like that.
It's given when they're talking about the branches of the Chaitanya tree in earlier chapters.
Right.
Aniya de hayari tanre aniye itai Prabhu kahi guru tenha yabatan ratani. Mukunda Datta then asked the Lord, shall I bring him here? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Brahmananda Bharati is like my spiritual master. It's better that I go to him. Etabali Maha Prabhu Bhakta Gana Sange Chali Aila Brahmananda Bharatira Age. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees came into the presence of Brahmananda Bharati. Brahmananda Pariyache Mriga Charmambara Taha Deke Prabhu Dukha Paila Antara. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees approached him, they saw that he was covered with a deer skin. Seeing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very unhappy. The deer skin. I'll skip that part. Dekiya tachadma kaila yena dekinani mukundere puchi kahan bharati goshani. Seeing Brahmananda Bharati wearing the deer skin, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pretended not to see him. Instead, he asked Mukunda Datta, "Where is Brahmananda Bharati, my spiritual master?" Mukunda kahi e age deka vidyamana Prabhu kahi tena nahena tumi agayana. Mukunda Datta replied, "Here is Brahmananda Bharati in your presence." The Lord replied, "You are incorrect. This is not Brahmananda Bharati." Anyare anya kaha nahi tomara jnana Bharati goshani keni pare bena chama. You must be talking of someone else, for this is surely not Brahmananda Bharati. You simply have no knowledge. Why should Brahmananda Bharati wear a deer skin? Shuni Brahmananda kare hridaye vichare Mora charmam bara na na baya in hare. When Brahmananda Bharati heard this, he thought, "My deer skin is not approved by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." Tell us of another instance where Mahaprabhu, by inference, tells someone that they shouldn't be wearing a particular garment.
Oh, with the fancy chadar.
Yeah, Sanatana Goswami's chadar.
You remember?
Trades it, man, by the river.
Yeah. Thus admit, Bala kahena chamambara dambalagi pare, charmambara paridane samsara natare. Thus admitting his mistake, Brahmananda Bharati thought, "He spoke well. I put on this deer skin only for prestige. I cannot cross over the ocean of nations simply by wearing a deer skin." Aji haiti na pariba e charmambara, Prabhu bahirvasa anaila janiya antara. From today on, I shall not wear this deer skin. That was his conclusion. As soon as Brahmananda Bharati decided this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, understanding his mind, immediately sent for the robes of a sannyasi. Charmambara chari Brahmananda parilavasana Prabhu ashi kaila tanra charana vandana. As soon as Brahmananda Bharati gave up his deer skin and covered himself with sannyasi robes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and offered his respects at his lotus feet. So there's an interesting dynamic here where even though Brahmananda Bharati is senior in terms of spiritual hierarchy, initiation hierarchy, he's senior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As are quite a few of Mahaprabhu's Jagannath Puri associates. There's some of them are his godbrothers, or some of them are senior godbrothers, we could say, senior disciples of Ishvara Puri. So in terms of etiquette or hierarchy, they're above Mahaprabhu. But he is still giving them instruction. So, but not direct. Mahaprabhu's not telling him directly, "Look, you need to take off this deer skin and put on some traditional, more appropriate sannyasi attire." But nonetheless, the instruction is coming from Mahaprabhu to Brahmananda Bharati, albeit in a subtle, indirect way. And the point being that even though we say that form is ultimately of not much consequence when it comes to spiritual calculations, substance is of importance. And we hear the famous phrase, form breaker, right? Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was a form breaker. That is, he was not interested in superficialities and all of the distractions that come along with superficialities as one practices sadhana in the spiritual process. When Mahaprabhu is talking to Rupa Goswami at Prayag at Dasashramedh Ghat for 10 days, and he's talking about the bhakti process. He's giving an overview of the bhakti process, and he mentions, and this is actually very simple instructions, but if they can be understood and applied in one's sadhana life, they can pay such huge dividends. So Mahaprabhu is saying to Rupa Goswami that when you begin the sadhana process, which is known as bhajana kriya, you have some faith, you begin associating with devotees, and then you begin going through the motions, because at first it may just be we're going through the motions of something, trying to develop some heart and some spirit behind it, which will come eventually. So if we're going through the motions of something, going through the bhajana kriya process, we get a certain amount of power in our lives. There's a subtle power comes in. We're living a sattvic life, we're going through these rituals of worship, and gradually spiritual grace is becoming and descending and becoming a part of our lives. With that spiritual nutrition, unfortunately, it can be diverted to an inappropriate place. So instead, and Mahaprabhu gives the metaphors of a garden, gives the metaphor of a garden, where the central plant in the garden is a bhakti lata, the creeper of devotion. And through the bhajana kriya process, it's akin to watering that plant, giving that plant nutrition, water and soil nutrition. And so that plant grows. But there's always the potential of some of that nutrition being diverted to other places, and in the metaphor, these are weeds that might grow in the garden. So typically, those weeds are, Mahaprabhu lists puja, pratishta as two chief weeds to be aware of. And of course, puja means worship. So along with the bhakti process, that spiritual energy and nutrition and nourishment comes into our lives, and some of that can be diverted towards a desire to be adored. You say puja, we want adoration, we want fans, right? People to like us, want to be a popular devotee. And that is a weed. That desire for that is a weed, and it needs to be removed because that weed is going to be sucking, diverting nutrition away from your bhakti lata, the central channel, the central purpose of why you're performing these sadhana practices. So it's important to introspect and recognize, where am I looking in my life? Where am I looking for people to like me, to worship me? This puja. Mahaprabhu is quite clear when he tells Rupa Goswami this. And the other one is pratishta, which you could say they're connected, but pratishta is more power, to have respect, dominance, to feel oneself superior to others. So there's not so much the emotional aesthetics with puja. You may not have power. You don't need to have power to be popular and to be worshipped necessarily. But pratishta is definitely power, prestige. Someone wants to be seen as having a status above others. Whether they're worshipped or not in that position is slightly different, so that it's nuanced. But nonetheless, those two are identified. And these two feed themselves on form, because the substance of bhakti cannot accommodate puja and pratishta, right? It doesn't live there, cannot be there. So the only way it can be there in the name of bhakti is in form, right? And so Guru Maharaj is a form breaker, he's breaking all of this. And in more, less substantial, you could say more unimportant ways, it relates to dress as well. Not that this is the sum total of this pastime where Mahaprabhu is getting Brahmananda Bharati to change his clothes. But, so we may say that, okay, if form is not so important, and clothing is not so important, then why has Mahaprabhu asked indirectly? He's got Brahmananda Bharati to change his robes. We could ask that question. If Guru Maharaj is a form breaker, and we need to get rid of this form, the attachment to the form, to the superficiality, in order to, in the interest of the substance, why is so much attention here being given to the deer skin?
Because he put that on because of getting prestige.
Yes, that's correct. The answer is given in there. Because of the prestige. So the form does need to be addressed. It's like a kind of a conundrum. You can say, oh, form is not important, so we can wear anything. But if you're wearing that thing for prestige, then that's pratishta, and that's one of the items identified by Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami. And that will obstruct the substance of Krishna consciousness. So Mahaprabhu, as the perfect teacher, is able to identify when something which someone else may see as like, he's wearing a deer skin, man. Look, concentrate on the substance. No, it's just a piece of clothing. The deer probably died naturally, hopefully. He didn't go out and hunt the deer. Not a sannyasi wouldn't do that. So focus on the substance, not on the form. But someone who such as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can identify when that superficiality is when that form is inappropriate. In other cases, it may be appropriate. It may be okay, but there's more superficial considerations too, as in it is a product of himsa, ultimately, and it's not traditional dress. So in terms of etiquette, it may not be appropriate. There was one in Mauritius when Prabhupada was preaching in Mauritius. He went there and someone laid out a tiger skin for him to sit on and do his puja. Yeah, they laid out a tiger skin. And Prabhupada wouldn't sit on it. He didn't want to offend them, but he wouldn't sit on the tiger skin for his worship. So although one could say that all these things are just, everything can be used, and if you want to focus on the substance, then why are you focusing on the form and rejecting certain elements of form? There is also, on one hand, if that form is being used for pratishta, as in this case, or if the form is inappropriate for worship, perhaps it's tamasic in nature, and generally in Vaishnavism only sattvic items are used in worship, then discrimination can be made. So Brahmananda Bharati replies, after he gives up his deer skin, Bharati kahe tomara acha loka shikaite punana kariba nati bhaya panachite. Brahmananda Bharati said, you instruct the general populace by your behavior. I will not do anything against your wishes. Otherwise you will not offer me respects, but will neglect me. I am afraid of this. Sampratika dui Brahma ihan chala chala, Jagannatha achala Brahma tumi ta sachala. At the present moment I see two Brahmans. One Brahman is Lord Jagannath, who does not move. The other Brahman, who is moving, is you. Lord Jagannath is the Archa Vigraha, the worshipful deity, and it is he who is the non-moving Brahman. But you are Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you are moving here and there. The two of you are the same Brahman, master of the material nature, but you are playing two parts, one moving, one not moving. In this way, 2 Brahmans are now residing at Jagannath Puri, Purushottam. Tumi Gaura Varna Tenha Shamala Varna Dui Brahme Kaila Sabha Jagat Tarana. Of the 2 Brahmans, you are fair complexioned, and the other, Lord Jagannath, is blackish. Both of you are delivering the whole world. Who knows the verse? It's like described as Krishna is, Mahaprabhu is described as blackish. No, Krishna is described as blackish, but appearing as anyone except Vishaka. This verse, what shloka does it remind you of? You started it correctly, didn't you? What did you say? No, did you say a different one?
Oh, you're thinking of a different one, I told you.
Come on, Vishaka. No one else knows.
It's fun to be
Krishna.
on the other side.
Krishna Varna, Krishna.
Translation, please. Of course, gold star.
It's a very beautiful verse, isn't it? Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam. Krishna Varnam, like the color of Krishna, right? Varna means like a dress, right? The color, like the
the luster color.
Tvisa means luster. So it's an interesting verse. It's got Krishna Varnam, which means the color of Krishna, and Tvisa Krishnam, like the luster of Krishna. No, Tvisa, Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sam, yeah. The color of Krishna and the luster of Krishna. I remember someone talking about the verse and going, oh, there's a redundancy there because, Varna and Tvisa, like the color of Krishna and the color of Krishna, like the color of Krishna and the lust, like the effulgence of Krishna, but not black.
But Varna also has the double meaning.
As in like Varna Ashram.
No, in like describing, speaking. Krishna Varna, he's always speaking about Krishna.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's one of the layers of meaning there. He's always speaking about Krishna, and he's blackish color. So both is there.
You've seen it translated that way before?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Interesting. It's good to have you around.
Good to have you around.
There's a
It's
new
nice
interesting.
to talk to someone who knows about shlokas.
If you like color, there's a difference between the color and luster. If you put
Yes.
something, there is a huge difference in eyesight. The luster and the color.
For sure. Yeah, that's how I've heard the verse described. So obviously, and Vishaka's just given a different, how it can be,
Yeah, and I'm pretty
translated
sure when
differently.
Parm Gumarj explains that verse, he also mentions that point.
Right,
He's always talking about Krishna.
yes. Prabhu kahe, Satya kahe, Tomara agamane, Dui Brahma prakatila Shri Purushottame. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, actually, to tell you the truth, due to your presence, there are now 2 Brahmans at Jagannath Puri. Brahmananda nama tumi Gaura Brahmachala, Shama Varna Jagannatha Vasya Chena Achala. Both Brahmananda and Gaura Hari are moving, whereas the blackish Lord Jagannath is sitting tight and immobile. Bharati kahe sarvabhauma madhyashtahana inharasane amara nyaya bhuja manadiya. Brahmananda Bharati said, my dear Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, please become the mediator in this logical argument between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and me. Vyapya vyapaka bhave jiva brahme jani jiva vyapya brahma vyapaka shastrete vakane Ramananda Bharati continued, the living entity is localized, whereas the Supreme Brahman is all-pervading. That is the verdict of the scriptures. Charma Guchana Kaila Amare Sodhana Donhara Vyapya Vyapakatve Eta Karana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu purified me by taking away my deer skin. This is proof that he is all-pervasive and all-powerful, and that I am subordinate to him. Suvarna Varno Himango Varangas Chanda Nangadi. Jai Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sannyasa Krish Shama Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayana. Yeah, so this is a verse from the Mahabharata. So the purport says, Vishnu Sahasranam. His bodily hue is golden, and his whole body is like molten gold. Every part of his body is beautifully constructed and smeared with sandalwood pulp. Accepting the renounced order, Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Accepting the renounced order, the Lord is always equipoised. He is firmly fixed in his mission of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and he is firmly situated in his dualistic conclusion and in his peace. It's another one of the famous verses that are used to describe or that are used to point to mention of Mahaprabhu prior to his appearance in the Shastra. Has anyone done a compilation of those? I know there's some in oh God, it doesn't come to me right now.
Volcano of Divine
Yeah.
Love, Param Maharaj mentions most of. There's maybe in the introduction or something.
Yes,
Pretty much.
it's in the
covers all of
introduction of it.
it.
Yeah, he covers most of the main ones, right? E sabanamera inna haya nijaspara chandanakta prasada dora Sri Bhuje Angara. All the symptoms mentioned in the verse from the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra are visible in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His arms are decorated with sandalwood pulp, and the thread received from the Jagannath deity, his arms are decorated with sandalwood pulp, and the thread received from the Sri Jagannath deity, and these are his ornamental bangles. So in this debate, you see, not a debate, discussion, Mahaprabhu is Brahmananda Bharati is saying to Mahaprabhu, oh, there are two Brahmans, as in God in Jagannath Puri, manifestations of the Supreme. One is the deity and one is you. And Mahaprabhu goes, no, one is the deity and one is you. And so they bring in, or Brahmananda Bharati enlists Sarvabhauma as a mediator to decide who is the other Brahman, Jagannath. There's no debate, there's no contention over whether Jagannath is Brahman. But Mahaprabhu is saying, you're Brahman, and Brahmananda Bharati is going, no, it's you. So they bring in a third party to resolve the issue. But before Sarvabhauma speaks, Brahmananda takes recourse to scripture, and he's quoting these verses from this one from the Mahabharata's Vishnu Sahasranam to win his case. So he says his bodily hue is golden, etc. So it's kind of clear that it's Mahaprabhu. I don't know if Sarvabhauma ends up actually speaking here, does he? Maybe, we'll see. So all the symptoms are visible. Oh yes, he does right here. Bhattacharya kahe bharati deki tomara jaya, Prabhu kahe ye kaha se satyahaya. After hearing this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya rendered his judgment, saying, Brahmananda Bharati, I see that you are victorious. Right, so Brahmananda Bharati takes recourse to Shastra, and it's pretty clear, pretty quickly, that his opinion of Mahaprabhu being the other Brahman in Jagannath Puri is correct, and it's supported by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately said, I accept whatever Brahmananda Bharati has said, it's quite alright with me. Guru Shishya Nyayi Satya Shishyara Parajaya Bharati Kahe E Ho Nahe Anya Hetuhaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus posed himself as a disciple and accepted Brahmananda Bharati as his spiritual master. He then said, the disciple is certainly defeated in an argument with the spiritual master. Brahmananda Bharati immediately countered these words, saying, this is not the cause of your defeat, there is another cause. Bhakta tani hara tumi e tomara svabhava, ada eka shuni tumi apana prabhava. It is your natural characteristic to accept defeat at the hands of your devotee. There is also another glory of yours, which I ask you to hear attentively. Ajanma karinu muni nirakara dhyana, toma deke krishna haila mura vidyamana. I have been meditating on the impersonal Brahman since my birth. But since I have seen you, I have fully experienced Krishna. Krishna nama svuri mukhe mane netre Krishna, toma ke tad rupa deke hridaya shatrishna. Brahmananda Bharati continued, since I have seen you, I have been feeling Lord Krishna's presence in my mind and have been seeing him before my eyes. I now want to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. Over and above this, within my heart, I consider you to be Krishna, and therefore I am very eager to serve you. It's interesting how a lot of Mahaprabhu's associates, the religious milieu of the time, there was not necessarily so much demarcation that we get now between what is impersonal and what is personal. Like these 10 sannyasis that were with Mahaprabhu in Puri, the das, whatever the phrase is to refer to them. They're the roots of the tree. So it must be like a synonym of mula. But it's not das mula, it's something else.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up. But they are all of these sannyasis are initiated in the Shankarite line. They all have sannyas names like Bharati and Saraswati and Puri, etc. One of those 10 names. But regardless of that, they were all devotees and accepted as such by Mahaprabhu.
How can you be
But-
Mayavadi and then just be a Vaishnava?
Through a process of conversion. I don't think it can be at the same time. Not at the same time. But I imagine that I imagine that if the conversion may take various lengths of time, I don't imagine it all happens as rapidly as it did with Sarvabhauma, for instance. Right?
It was like one day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, one day, and he would compose those verses in glorification of Mahaprabhu, right? The very next day or whatever. But yes, it was pretty much instantaneous. Whereas others, it may take a while. It's possible. I can't think of any particular example right now, but it's theoretical. It seems feasible. But the theme reoccurs throughout the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, of this transformation from Brahman realization to that of Bhagavan realization. Of course, the first famous instance at the beginning, close to the beginning of Madhya Lila, is that of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then at the very end of Madhya Lila, we have Prakashananda Saraswati going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Because
And
the personality of God was right there.
yes,
In front of them.
That helps.
Yeah. yes, for sure. So either the personality of God or the devotees of God, but generally some contact with that energy of Bhagavan. And it's the Leela, I mean, it's what are the four special qualities of Krishna you won't find in Brahman is Krishna's flute, his associates, his personal beauty, and his pastimes. So exposure to any of those has the power to lift someone from that impersonal realization to being attracted to the form of the Lord and everything, Nam Rup Gun Lila of the Lord. So the Lord's devotees, including, if one of the special attractive features of Krishna are his associates, that means his devotees. So contact with the devotees also has the power to change someone from Brahman, Advaitin conception to that of devotional service. But I mean, feasibly, it needn't necessarily be a dramatic epiphany. It may be a gradual process. Someone may enter from there into the lower regions of the lower levels of Shantaras, for instance, then progress into a more crystallized understanding of Krishna's form and what that entails in terms of service and association with Krishna's associates, etc. But those verses are very nice. I mean, you have like the famous one, Atmaramas Jamunayo, which is quoted both when Sarvabhauma is converted, so to speak, and also at the same time with Prakashananda Saraswati.
Sanatana.
And with Sanatan, and with Prakashananda.
Oh, Prakashananda also.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 3 times.
Yeah, because he's asked, it's with Sanatan, Sanatan asks him to repeat it, right? Sanatan's heard of the famous explanation given to Sarvabhauma. And then he's asked to repeat it again. By who? With Prakashananda. Sanatan was there with Prakashananda at that time, right? Sanatan was still there, possibly. Do you mind if I look it up quickly?
Sure.
We can. So this is the 61 explanations of the Atmaram verse, and hang on.
There is a verse index too in fact.
I'll use that then. So, okay, we're on the right chapter anyway, but I'll use it. I wonder if it's the most quoted shloka in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Could be.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most interpreted, isn't it? 61,
That's for sure.
61 interpretations.
61 plus 16.
Is it?
Because it's totally separate.
Right, yeah. The 16 wasn't included in the 61.
No, it wasn't, no.
No?
No, definitely. So it made it more impressive. And Sarvabhauma also gave some explanations too, but those aren't described.
Yeah. Did he give 8
It was like,
explanations?
yeah, 8 or 9 or something, yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm on the here we go, yeah. Oh wow, yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah. There's tons of entries here. Okay.
There's also purports, right? Swami Maharaj mentioned purports.
Okay. So, okay. Hang on. Oh, there's a lot in chapter 24. Okay, so they're all in the previous chapter then. 224, 162. Anyway, I won't try and find it further, but this is, oh, hang on. Anyway, I thought it was 3 times, because it was with Sanatana, and then again, Prakashananda himself requests it, doesn't he?
I don't remember that. I only know the Sarvabhauma one and the Sanatana or something.
Okay, we'll look it up later, it might take a bit longer. But anyway, that theme of going from Mayavad, Brahman realization, to Bhakti, find it at the very beginning, at the very end of the Madhya Lila, Mahaprabhu's preaching. And in that sense you go, what is the preaching of? Is converting people, bringing people from one lower conception and raising their consciousness to a higher level of devotional, spiritual realization. In this case, from Mayavad to Bhakti. And it's been described as the Timangala. Today, in today's, context, it's been described, Mayavad as a Timangala fish
Yeah.
of Mayavad.
Timingalo Danagatan.
Udrita Jivaniman.
Well,
Yeah.
we see that obviously now in the world.
Yes. And so personally I find these verses of talking about people that are already Atmarama, meaning already satisfied. You could say, in a sense, they've reached a stage of perfection.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
under the influence of any psychophysical dictates or urges, right? They're on the platform of the Atma.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say in the sense that, that is what you could call self-realization. But it's not Bhagavan realization. So there's still potential left there. And that is the preaching of Mahaprabhu as given in the Madhya Lila, at least in certain crucial areas with Sarvabhauma, right? Sarvabhauma was Atmaram. And Prakashananda, you could argue, was there or almost there.
But then Guru Maharaj says half-truth is worse than a lie, Like,
Well, it's not a half-truth in the sense that Brahman is very real.
yeah.
There's
But
also the difference between a Brahmavadi and a Mayavadi, right? Like Shukadev, I would say is a Brahma. It's a Brahmavadi. It's different. Chatusan, Brahmavadi. But then like Sarvabhauma Prakashananda, it's a bit more, it's the arrogance of the Mayavad, like I am God, right? So it's different, isn't it?
I guess, yeah.
There's differences, like, worshipping the Brahman and entering in some sort of reverential way. But the Shankar God is different, right? It's more that I am, there's my arrogance there, isn't it?
Well, yeah. As far as I know, I mean, unless one has entered into the relationship with Bhagavan, beginning with Shantaras, then the conception of God must necessarily be impersonal. Because even in Shantaras, there is a conception of a personal God, of Bhagavan, but it's not clearly formed. It's not delineated. So as in Prahlad Maharaj saying, Hiranyakashipu asking, where is your God? And Prahlad going, he's everywhere. He's everywhere. So, yes, Krishna is everywhere, but also Krishna has a personal form. So in the Shantaras, it's not yet fully formed. Whereas you go below, you could say below Shantaras, or prior to Shantaras, where, yes, my God is everywhere, you say, but my God is impersonal, my God does not have a form. Which is Brahman, right? Brahman realization.
But then you you have to go back to the material world again and start all over because you have wrong conclusion.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? Maybe. But
That's what we hear, no?
in terms of Brahman realization and merging with God, as in someone asserting that I am God, as far as I know, they're the same thing. Because that is the pinnacle of Brahman realization, isn't it? The Mayavad philosophy that, Maya is there, and once Maya is abolished, then the soul automatically merges back into the ocean of consciousness.
There are so many different Vedic schools, right? And I think for a lot of them, there's just this kind of haziness, like for example, Tyagi, he told how once he was in Varanasi, he was doing some research for the calendar, I think, and he met with this guy, and he was the head of this school. And they had tons of these young boys were being trained in Vedic thought and stuff, and they got to this discussion about Brahman and all this, and his idea was we just don't.
It's impossible to know.
We don't know.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it was very different from the Shankarite conception. It was just like this haze, and the Vedas are kind of like that. There's this haziness.
Yes.
Pointing in the direction.
But would you label his, not knowing Brahmavad or Mayavad? It couldn't be labeled as such, could it? It's just his personal idea that it can't be known. I mean, it could be nuanced. I just haven't thought about it that way. I always saw Mayavad, Brahmavad as the same thing, as in Brahman, any kind of impersonal. And if there's arrogance attached, well, that would be just like a devotee being arrogant. It's just like a contamination of Maya.
Arrogance in the sense of the ideology is arrogant.
I see. But it's true in a sense, because we are, Jiva Shakti, it's marginal. So can merge with the God, the God substance, if you want to call it that, Brahman. The Jiva can merge with that as one. It's known as Sayujya Mukti, right?
Right.
So it's true to assert that on one level,
Being one and
that I am one with God. It says I am God. I mean, that's Shankara's teaching. But then the teachings of Mahaprabhu are showing, particularly in the Madhya Lila, how that is not the ultimate potential in terms of satisfaction, in terms of, everything can be really measured in terms of the happiness it gives, right? And so if someone's situated on the Brahman platform, Atmaram may subjectively feel that they've reached the very pinnacle of human potential and perfection, or conscious, the pinnacle of consciousness, of the state a conscious being can reach. But when they're exposed to Bhagavan or the associates of Bhagavan, there's something more. A new vista is opened up, right? The Atmaram is actually their tranquility is actually vitiated, right? And they get wow, there's something else there. Whereas nothing of the Mayic domain can titillate them in any way. but when they're exposed to the Leela and the form of the Lord and associates, then again some desire for rasa enters their consciousness.
Like Bhagavan
Urukami.
Saraswati Thakur were very strong about this point, right? They said 99% of his time he was preaching against this. To
Okay.
use, yeah, do you remember?
Yeah, well,
They
our
were very-
Guru made a
yeah.
comment that he used like 90% of his energy to explain what this is not. And gallons of blood shed to demonstrate what this isn't.
Yes. There was another one I read a couple of days ago, maybe 10 days ago. And I forget where I read it, because I need to start noting down the slokas to learn them. But it's of the same theme. You might know it, Vishaka. And it's, God, I even forget where it's from. But, oh, that's right. Is it in Rupa Goswami's Padyavali? Maybe, I forget. But anyway, it is someone talking about going from being a Paramahansa, like a swan, like because Brahman realized persons are also described as Paramahansas. From going from being a Paramahansa to a Chataka. You know what a Chataka is, right? You cannot be a Mayavadi and be a Chataka. So a Chataka is a type of bird that drinks only rainwater. Maybe a mythological bird, or maybe lived at certain times in the past. But nonetheless, the Chataka's behavior is that it's fastidious, won't drink any water but rainwater from the clouds, directly from the clouds. So it will sit there. And the example given is that the clouds may be barren, not be giving any water, or lightning may even come. But nonetheless, the Chataka will still sit there, just only waiting for the rainwater. So, whereas a Paramahansa is... anyway, the bird analogy, I found it very poetic. Like, we went from a Paramahansa to a Chataka.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to look it up. God, I forget where. I'll find it. Yeah. And then there's that other famous one of the Chatusaha, the four Kumaras, and the Tulsi leaves, the aroma of the
Yes.
Tulsi leaves,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Causing new desires for devotional service and loving interaction to come into their consciousness. Whereas previously they thought they were pretty much in control of everything. Anyway. Should we finish that?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, we're going to Green Street today as well.
All right, okay.
That was so wonderful.
Jai.
Yeah, very
Jai.
nice.
Jai. We do-
Were you going to say something?
No. I said we're going to do Hari Haraya, that's all. Yeah.
Hariyalaya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Hari Gopinath Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Jai.
Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Vimalacharya Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sunu Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Srila Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Bhargava ki
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki
Jai.
Om Vishnupad Vishwakarena Siresi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Sri Acharya Vrinda ki
Jai.
Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Sabashada Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki
Jai.
Sabashada Sri Mahaprabhu ki
Jai.
Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Kiri Govardhan ki
Jai.
Tulasi Narayana ki
Jai.
Ganga Yamuni Jiva ki
Jai.
Kanzarachi Bhagavatam Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki
Jai.
Sri Navadvitam ki
Jai.
Sri Mayapudam ki
Jai.
Sri Vrindavanam ki
Jai.
Sri Purushottamanam ki
Jai.
Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki
Jai.
Sri Chaitanya Saraswati ki
Jai.
Sri Chaitanya Saraswati East London Chapter ki
Jai.
Sri Chaitanya Saraswati West London Chapter ki
Jai.
Oh glorious to the Assembly devotees ki
Jai.
Oh glorious to the world devotees ki
Jai.
Sri Ram Tara Pandit Prabhu
Ki
ki
boo.
Jai. Hari Nam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
Jai Gaur
Hari Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Jai.